Hello friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to continue further in our series on disaster management. Today we are going to talk on Himalayan disaster and we are going to cover tourism and climate change impact. Friends, for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Professor RP Singh. Professor RP Singh is a renowned professor of geography and he is professor in Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. So let's welcome our guest, our expert, Professor RP Singh, and let's try to know more and more about Himalayan disaster. Hello, sir. Welcome to the lecture.
Thank you, Gitika ji. Dear viewers, we are going to cover today very important ecosystem of India that is known as Himalaya. Himalaya influence the sustainability of our India, and more specifically sustainability of Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra plains. We will try to see, due to the climate change or increasing tourism activity, what type of stress or disasters, extreme events we are getting. First, I would like to devote on geographical and cultural diversity of Himalaya. You know, we have a snow-clad regions, varied fairs and festivals, rich cultural heritage, seasonality in climate, diverse environment, arts and architecture, many monumental activity, and so people are attracted with such, geographical and cultural diversity. And generally during summertime, particularly after May, we have a lot of tourists going to Himalaya. Impact of tourism on the economic, environment and social development of our country is enormous. It is opening up the businesses, trade, capital investment, even it attracts also the tourism, foreign tourists, but same time it is creating jobs, entrepreneurship for the workforce and protecting also the heritage and the cultural values. Travel and tourism generated almost 10% of the global GDP and almost 1 in 11 jobs for the global economy in 2014. No doubt, in recent years we have a very massive expansion of tourism in many states, and Himalayan states are one of region is one of them. Tourism expansion is forecast to continue at a stronger rate than last year, with contribution of GDP expected to increase 3.7%. As Himalaya is more vulnerable to climate change, it can have a several negative impact on tourism sector also. So climate change, we are getting the sign and signals for impending climate change. Now we will try to see how this Himalayan landscape is very important. First, continental landscape, landforms and processes, particularly people are examining surface processes. The landforms and material products form a record of the earth's surface history. We have landscape dynamics, but particularly this one is one of also the region for extreme events, tectonic upliftment, continuing continental building, and then versus the continental destruction, surface deposition versus surface erosion. Driving mechanism, climate, atmosphere is a very, very important. Tectonic, particularly the geothermal energy is a very important. Time average processes, the processes rate, fast versus slow, long term versus short term. Time scaling factors, these are very, very important. And so it requires a system analysis approach. System, collection of components, where components interact and affect one another. Now you can see complexity of topography and Himalayan glacier you can understand from your own perception type of problem and coexistence we get like a forest and the Himalayan glaciers, and we get water for our rivers, particularly Indus river system, Ganga river system and Brahmaputra river system coming from Himalayan. Here you can see it is also considered as a tallest water tower of the earth. If you will consider the per unit availability of water, Himalaya used to receive the highest, and it increases from west to eastern side. Eastern side we have a very high, particularly in Meghalaya states, and the high rainfall, and so due to the high rainfall we had a steep slope. So these are the natural factors making landscape the more and more susceptible and vulnerable. Here you can see mountain regions, particularly how sensitive to climate warming, because due to the climate change, although these are the ungauged area, not much data available, but almost 5,000 to 8,000 glaciers are within Himalaya, and even if you combine the smaller glacier, it may be the more. Figure goes beyond 10,000 glaciers, and immediate impact of climate change can be seen through the changing nature of behavior of snow and glaciers. Temperature sensitive cryosphere, complex topography, a steep terrain, compressed ecological gradients. So ecological gradients, one can see a very typical altitudinal vegetational zonation model. Alpine region in the top. After that we have the temperate zone, subtropical, tropical situation. Mountain plants and animals with narrow ecological tolerance. Here you can see it is a hot spots of biodiversity. Many biodiversity hot spots are in northeastern region. Then we have in Uttarakhand, particularly I would like to take the name Valley of Flowers and Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserves. These two are the very, very important in the Uttarakhand. Here you can see how in the increasing importance of tourism, skiing, lot of people coming during the snowfall time, not only from India but also from the foreign country. Apart from that, mountains and particularly the Himalaya has a lot of spiritual significance. Mount Kailash, people in Tibet also goes most sacred mountains in the world for nearly 1 billion people, for 1 billion people in Asia. Largely they are during our historical time, people used to say that the Vanaspast time they go to the mountain, particularly get the spiritual to take meditation and all. But recent time you can see due to population growth, people are moving from earlier, people also came due to the out migration, also came to the big city of northern India, but lot of people in the early part of the 19th century they moved towards the Himalaya, and here you can see the type of cultivation we have, conservation to agriculture and the biodiversity conservation simultaneously going. It is a very important source of timber, fuel wood and non-wood forest products. As you know, the second energy crisis, and where the Himalaya role is very, very important, because we get lot of fuel wood from the Himalayan sources. This I am taking how this more than 650 million people live in the less developed mountain region. Here you can see this, the Lata in Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserves, Chipko movement is started from this area. So you can understand from own perception, Rainy village, Lata village, where we organize also the several group meetings with the local stakeholders, particularly the panchayat leaders, regarding creating awareness about the environmental problem, particularly the tree felling and conservation of the tree. In Kashmir, I would like to bring before you, here you can see this the lakes and gardens. How? But this Dal Lake is also the facing problem of eutrophication. People are using lot of fertilizers, intensive land use activity. These lakes, even we received shrinkage of this area also. No doubt many initiatives taken, particularly the cleaning, but still long way to go. I would like to bring before you here the case of Himachal Pradesh. Here you can see contribution of tourism in Himachal Pradesh, particularly how it is increasing. In Uttarakhand you can see also. So Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, particularly two states, attracted a lot of tourists due to the problems, particularly the political problem in Jammu and Kashmir. Seasonality in tourism industry in the Himalaya, you can see the tourist inflow in the starting from January. So generally they used to get in April, May, June, these are the months. Then again September, October, these two are the very, very important. No doubt during the summer time more tourists going to that area. Winter time a very quality tourist used to go, because for academic purpose, those who are working on the glaciers, snow related work, glacier lake outburst flood, they go that time. Here you can see the investment done, and particularly Uttarakhand, I would like to mention Himalayan states, Himachal Pradesh, these are the states having. Pilgrimage tourism, this is a very, very important. The whole Himalayan region has an important spiritual meaning for particularly the Hindu community. Is a sacred space. It is estimated that pilgrimage to the sanctuary in the Himalaya started between 4th to 2nd century BC, and earlier evidence getting particularly during the even Mahabharata time, during the 1st century BC. You see, during British time many hill stations were created. These hill stations where these colonial masters used to go during the summer time. You can see the Simla, Srinagar, Chakrata, Mussoorie, Dehradun, Ranikhet, Almora, Darjeeling, Shillong. These are the very, very important area. Modern tourism, again lot of for the educational, many initiative taken by the government, LTC and HTC program and all. Even for trekking, you see trekking particularly started after the advent Hillary and Tenzing climbed the Mount Everest and made the region popular in other parts of the world. After the Indian-Chinese border war, also the 1962, we had constructed a number of roads, and connectivity increased, and so you can see we have lot of until 1970, 10,000 kilometers of roads were created. Himalaya offers the modern tourist a wide strand, range of possibility, not only visiting the unique cultural attraction, but hiking, sports, winter sports, skiing, adventure tourism, etc. And so that is why waste issue related to tourism is great in the Himalayan region. Self-generated solid waste from the visitors, large number of visitors, amount of solid waste is also increasing. I remember few years back, even at the Rohtang Pass, even there was no any waste dustbin also. So, but nowadays we have a lot of awareness, people are more conscious, we have dustbin. Earlier there were some dustbin, but not, collection was not there, but now we have the regular collection. So, we have a lot of awareness under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, particularly our Prime Minister is very much interested and contributing a lot for increasing awareness in this contest. Pollution, also contributable to expedition, trekking and camping activity, trackers and all. It also restricts the option for them. Garbage includes the food, glass, clothes, tent, dead bodies. Apart from that, I would like to bring before you this one very important statement from UNEP, United Nations Environment Programme, and particularly the focus on cultural issue, because due to tourism we have also the loss of cultural through commodification, standardization, loss of authenticity and stage authenticity, adaptation to tourist demands. Here you can see wetlands are the more important victim in the Himalayan region. In Changtang region, we did some survey. I supervised some MPhil dissertation of on that. Average altitude is 4,700 meter. Temperature varies from 27 to minus 40 degrees centigrade. Unique and fragile ecosystem, fresh water as well as the brackish water of varying salinity zone. And this Sumuri lake were there, you can see here the photograph, how beautiful this. But now people go to see, due to the human activity, anthropogenic activity, we have lot of enormous impact on this region. These wetlands, not only in this upper part of the Himalaya, but also in Manipur, these lakes are getting polluted, and many researches are being done on these aspects. Now you can see in such region how we have the such important biodiversity. Bar-headed geese, black-necked crane, Himalayan marmot, kyong. And what are these important threats? Important threats coming through the overgrazing. Now, we have a very typical type of phenomena which is known as transhuman phenomena. During the summer time, people with cattle go up. During the winter time, they come down, and so we have overgrazing in this. Due to tourism activity, we have pollution problem. Then we have the climate change issue also. Due to the climate change, changing nature of the and water availability, because from short term we have the more water and long term we have a scarcity of water. Then we have ecotourism as a tool for wetland conservation. No doubt ecotourism may be considered as a sustainable tourism, particularly for conserving the wetland. Many initiative taken, particularly the improving the economic condition of people, for restricting the fragility of the environment and the unique cultural heritage. Many groups, cultural groups, social groups, community groups, they are quite active, particularly the preservation of forest and the water and the lakes in this region. Here you can see ecotourism as a tool for wetland conservation. Money likely to spend per day. It is a little bit old data, particularly from my MPhil student, place of stay of the tourist, but through this you can find now we have lot of the expenses, by the tourists. I would like to take up the small area also. You see from the Kangra area, you can see the Gaddi tribe of Kangra wearing unique cap with monal birds, for disaster prone and earthquake. This is also very, very important, and seismicity is there because it is a very close to that area, a snow disaster, a snow bound and difficult area, particularly Bara Bengal. Rainfall induced rock falls you can see in Bhagsu Nag, in Dharamsala area, particularly how the rainfall induced rock side. Particularly during the winter time, you can find such type of the landscape in many parts of the Himalaya. Particularly the middle Himalaya, where we have the more human activity. Then in the temperate zone, we have lot of fruits cultivation, and so then we have agriculture induced degradation and disaster. But here you can see the problem due to the growing tourism. Traffic is another, increasing flow of tourists, and hardly we have almost in Kullu. I would like to give you example of Manali. Manali is a very important tourist destination. During the 60s, hardly 20 hotels were there. Now at present, we have more than 800 hotel, motels and a smaller, So you can understand from your own perception. We have a steep slopey area, lot of cultivation also. So these all activity and then tourist influx, coming to that region, making region very, very vulnerable. You can see the growth of vehicles in Dharamsala, but it provides the livelihood security of the people in that region. They have sometime the Indian cooking classes, lot of foreigners, particularly in Dharamsala area coming. Then we have the Ayurvedic, houses, different type of the meditation, program is there. Here you can see a special wooden float at Bhagsu Nag market. A man from the hilly region, particularly from the Kachari, he is just the selling and the local product. A local person, clearing year of a foreign, a tourist, lot of cultural related. Then medicinal plant. I would like to also tell you that in that area many people are practicing Tibetan medicine. So lot of people even from Delhi, they go for the treatment. Foreign country, they are coming for that treatment. So that this also can be considered part of a tourism activity. So pilgrimage is very important. Many temples and the sites, religious sites are there, and so people worship and it provides a lot of livelihood income from this temple tourism. You can see pilgrimage from Punjab coming to that area, religious idols ready for sale in Kangra, and not only the local people from India, but also from foreign country, they purchase this. Here you can see Tibetan outlet at Bhagsu Nag, showcasing the slogan of Free Tibet and all, a type of the lot of the political activity due to the presence of the Dalai Lama is there, and lot of the even high dignitary people also come and meet to that area. Adventure tourism in Biling, first time paragliding World Cup held, particularly in 2015. at Veer Wheeling in Kangra, and it attracted a lot of so advantage a lot of tourists. Adventure tourism is emerging, is a very important, not only in Himachal Pradesh but also in Uttarakhand. Several initiatives taken particularly to promote the adventure tourism. It is one of the best paragliding site of the world. Tibetan population residing in Bir along with local community, known for its monastery, Tibetan culture, local community livelihood depend on the tourists and Tibetans, homestay, guest houses, catering, restaurant business. After the World Cup, became good place for education, not only for the local but also for the far distance places in Chota and Bara Bengal area. One can see, particularly in the Dharamsala area, so many meditation center. Value education is being promoted by the many community organization and group. Here you can see the paragliding, World Cup, and then paragliders they are the landing. So many international tourists came particularly for participating in this area. Even airline, we have now the frequent connection, we have university there. So tourism induce environmental impacts on mountainous region, and particularly in Himalaya, can be summarized in 4 very important. Environmental degradation broadly, and degradation of what? Degradation of land, water, flora and fauna, and sometimes also the degradation of air quality. Then depletion of forest, soil erosion, drying of the wetlands. This is a very important phenomena in many parts of the Himalaya. Earlier these wetlands, people were using for drinking purposes, such wetlands, water. Even the children going for a far distance places for collecting the water. But nowadays these all are drying up, destroyed the arable agricultural land. Even one can see lot of abandoned terraces in apple orchard area. One can see particularly in the Manali area. We did some activity and survey activity. So I would like to tell that we have the different very important cultural sites. We have impending climate change, seasonality, so attracting the lot of tourists. But apart from attracting the tourists, we have enormous human activity in the form of agriculture, horticulture, tourism, also the hydroelectric power projects, construction of hydroelectric power projects, and bringing enormous change, landscape change in the Himalayan region. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us this session on Himalayan disaster. Friends, you are requested to be with us as there is lots more for you, and we are going to give you more and more information on the topic. So be with us. We are back after a short break. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Friends, as you know that we are carrying forward a series on disaster management, and today we are specifically discussing on Himalayan disaster. We are covering tourism and climate change impact, and for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Professor RP Singh. Professor RP Singh is from Delhi University, a renowned professor of geography. Through him we always discuss on different and important topics. Today also this topic is important, as mentioned earlier. So let's welcome our guest Professor RP Singh once again, and let's try to have a vicious session. Hello sir, welcome.
Thank you Nitika ji. Welcome viewers. We are going to discuss Himalayan disaster. We have lot of changes due to the tourism, but we would like to discuss more on climate change issue, because these two are making Himalayan region more and more vulnerable to disasters. First, I would like to establish linkages between climate, tourism and sustainable development. Mountains provides food, water, energy, biodiversity and health together with climate. So, climate provides the basis for the mountain tourism. Climate change induced mountain disasters are emerging and becoming very, very common. Climate change and disasters restrict future development, tourism activity and development. So, one can see we have a close linkage between climate, tourism and sustainable development. Now, you can see that how changing global mean temperature, annual mean, and you can see the trend line, and one can see a tremendous change after the around 1920 and more specifically after 1960 we have a very steep change of the temperature. No doubt, very broadly speaking, in our country, considering our several study, I can say we have the more temperature change between 0. It is less than 1 degree centigrade, 0.6 to 0.8 between. Here you can see from 1750 how this temperature, it is a low frequency variation, temperature analysis and rainfall analysis, and what I would like to use the term we are getting climate variability. Temperature projection, this is done by the Terry. You can see this the northeast Himalayan region, how the temperature is changing. Increase in temperature over the northeastern region shows that increase occurs uniformly over the time periods. But I would like to bring before you here the case studies, particularly from the central Himalayan region, Chamoli and Pithoragarh, two case study I am taking, and here you can see this one can see a lot of the anomaly also in the data. So, but we have the 0.6, 0.3 in the pre-monsoon period, post-monsoon 0.6 degree centigrade change. So, what I would like to say that we are getting clear-cut sign and signals for climate change, at least on my own study from Uttarakhand, from Himachal Pradesh, I can say we have the clear-cut change in the average trend of seasonal rainfall also. You can see 1957-2005. I would like to tell you that the Himalayan region is not a very well covered gauged area. So, we have a lot of problem also, but in the data, but whatever the data available, and we also the projected for the missing period, and we can find that the lot of the changes is taking place. As I mentioned in the first earlier, we have the retreating snouts of Milan, Dhaulagiri and Tipra glaciers, and here you can see this green area is a more vacated area, in the melted area, retreating area, and in all three places we have clear cut change. We tried to identify some geomorphological evidences, and on the basis of changing landscape, like here you can see the first photograph, dead glacier mound and melting from the beneath, making the surface collapsible, and so this shows accelerated glacier ice melt. Then you can see the second photograph, confluence of Ratban and South Nilgiri glaciers, abrupt changes in the slope of ablation zone. This indication of accelerated glacier ice loss. Here you can see also from the Himachal Pradesh two situation I am putting before you, eastern side and the western side, and middle side we have the better situation, but the we have the more in 2011 you can see the more better situation, but eastern side due to the human activity we have the more impact. Like you can see a snow area particularly between 1989 to 2001 almost minus 4201 square kilometer. Non-snow area we had some increase. So a snow area we have the minus change, but in the non-snow area we have increase. The altitudinal variation in the region has impact on decreasing the snow cover area. I would like to bring before you here the one very important extreme events and disasters, risk assessment of glacier lake outburst flood. And this phenomena, two places we have the more danger of this disaster. First one in the Sikkim is a very considered is a more vulnerable, and then we have in Himachal Pradesh. You can see here how glaciers melting, then we have the avalanche area, vacant space due to glacier receding, and then we have the moraine dams, and sometime due to increase of the water in the lake, dam burst, and it is bringing a lot of impact in the low lying area. You can see this the potential globe sites and how it can bring enormous impact. Hope you will remember the very important in China one such globe site brusted few years back. It was known as Parachu Lake. I would like to bring before you also the one data I would like to in the mean maximum temperature at Bhuntar, and here Bhuntar is nearest to Manali area. Lot of tourists going by airport because Bhuntar is a airport, and here you can see it is not very high increase, but the some increase is starting from 1975 to 2005 we have some increase in the temperature. And so what are the important impact in the form of these areas becoming exposure to the flood, entire village, what happened in Kashmir, Srinagar, I will bring some case study also. People, property and infrastructure, business, enterprise, government centers, crop, wildlife, natural resources, all are being destroyed and damaged. Here you can see devastation in Kedarnath, that what happened in 2013 Kedarnath tragedy, a very famous due to the clouded burst. Brahmaputra river overflowed many times, particularly during the monsoon time, and if you will ask me to identify the two very important factors I would like to say, dam construction and road construction. These are very enormous, bringing enormous impact on the Brahmaputra system, and lot of almost the in 2012 2,000 villages destroying the homes in the near northeast of the country. Now you can see this, the northeast is very, very important, and every year almost we have the problem of not only the loss of human life, but we have threatened biodiversity. You know, Kaziranga National Park is very famous for one-horn rhino. People coming from the far distance places, even foreign country, they come to see this. You know, we have elephants, we have other animals also, but this, it is like a endemic nature of the biodiversity, and we are getting enormous impact due to the flood, climate change, and the tourism induced flood impact and due to anthropogenic activity. Here you can see anti-erosion work with wire mesh of stone, using local adaptation method during the flood time, how this old, lady, going to the other area. So we need monitoring, good prediction, and I already mentioned that ungauged area, Himalaya is generally considered as an ungauged area, because our meteorological stations are declining. Whatever the stations are there, we are not able to maintain the lesson, and so in this situation, remote sensing, geographic information system, and global positioning system, this can play a very important role for monitoring, emerging areas of geographical technology. Even I would like to suggest here that government should, allow all commercial airline to collect upper atmospheric data. If we can have upper atmospheric data, good data, I can tell you we should have a better improved understanding about the Himalayan landscape, climate, and if we have improved understanding, our strategy, our adaptation will bring a change in the situation. We have many satellites, Landsat, IRS, Aster, MODIS, GRACE, all over the world. Through different observation, DGPS can bring lot of clarity in our monitoring and in our data, and in combination with Survey of India topo sheets, I think we can develop the global topographical data. We can also use like SRTM, Aster, CartoDem application, particularly for identifying and calculating and measuring the slope aspects, physiographical analysis. We can use also for the weather situation, SAR data also, SAR interferometry, NDSI, NDWI, NDPI, INSAR interferometry for snow parameters. All different type of the data can be collected. Here you can see how we have the different type of mixture of forest, and you can see interception. Coniferous forest 30 to 50%, broadleaf forest 15 to 30%, tropical forest 15 to 30%. Then we have agricultural crop, I think around 10-12%. Here, through this diagram, it is very important to understand the list of major hazardous events, avalanches, debris flows, slide flow, globe and rock fall, particularly in the Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. Many scholars, they have done analysis from our NDMA, BEAST, HEM and Glacier. You can see that we had in 1936, 48, 52, 75 in Badrinath rockfall, and Mana village was partially abandoned. In 79 to 2002, the Bamni village near Badrinath, avalanche blocked river for few hours. It caused a land lake outburst and completely washed away the Bami village in Badrinath. Then 20th July 70, Hanuman Chatti near Badrinath in Haridwar. 2004 again Badrinath. 2007 Alkapuri Glacier near confluence of Satopant and Bhagirathi Glacier. 2005 Gobind Ghat was affected. Then 8 Ghangaria and Hemkund Sahib, where avalanche was the important phenomena. 2010 Jyotimas to Badrinath. 2002 and 3 other Sumna village and all, and one can see lot of people were killed also. We lost loss of human life due to these disasters, debris flows, avalanches, cloud burst, a glacier lake outburst flood, even sometime slumping the landscape. So it is very important to reduce the soil erosion, surface runoff and sediment load, but you can see this diagram, you can understand how big boulders due to the rainfall coming to the rivers, blocking the total river bed and sometime causing a flooding in this region. I remember in 90s this whole Kullu valley was disconnected for 15 days, and even a SASE, a snow avalanche study establishment, that laboratory of the DRDO was totally washed away, after the Manali area. We have many other disasters, Kashmir flood, Jammu Kashmir, then in 14 also Jammu Kashmir, Uttarakhand disaster 2013, and I would like to quote from the IPCC 2007, and you can understand the type of usage we are going. I quote, "Glacier melt in the Himalaya is projected to increase flooding and avalanches from these destabilized slopes." So, destabilize, because we have a steep slope, and who destabilize? People, human being, and also the animal, because we are going to have more and more livestock population, and affect the water resources within the next 2 or 3 decades. This will be followed by decreased river flow as the glacier recede. It is projected that crop yields could decrease up to 30% in the South Asia by the mid 21st century, according to Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, unquote. So, what we can do? We have, and 4 important tasks I would like to take from Sendai framework of disaster risk reduction. First, understanding glacier data and risk. Second, priority second, strengthening glacier risk governance to manage disaster. Third, investing in glacier risk reduction for resilience. And 4, enhancing glacier disaster preparedness for effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction. Here you can see we collected climate change vulnerability in the Kullu region, and several indicators were identified, biophysical indicators, human indicators. I would like to give you one example: literacy rate, percent of working population, population density, percent of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe population, population per commercial bank, banking facility, number of drinking water, water availability during summer, gross cropped area, percent of wasteland, number of land holdings less than 1 hectare and percent of uncultivated and fallow land. And here you can see that how different villages are in different category, like a low vulnerability, moderate vulnerability and the high vulnerability. So, if we have to take any policy, I think high vulnerable area can be taken up by policy makers. We did also the risk assessment, particularly for Uttarkasi area. First, we have calculated the risk assessment, flood related risk, landslide related risk, avalanche related risk. Then we combine the integrated risk assessment map. Here you can see we and categorize into 5 category, very high to the very low. Generally very high areas are in the a steep slope area, and then in the more forested area it is not so. Here you can say potential soil erosion risk, and this is Chakrata. We collected the data, rainfall data, slope data, soil erodibility, altitude. We combined together and prepared the such type of the map, like a scarcely vulnerable area, moderately vulnerable area, highly vulnerable area, extremely vulnerable area. I would like to devote few minutes on floods in Srinagar. And this is a very, very important flood disaster. Srinagar, flood is not a uncommon, but due to excessive rainfall and a snow melt in the upper catchment area of the Jhelum basin. Often the function of heavy encroachment of the floodplain, excessive urbanization and huge pressure of the ever growing population, what we received and one can see in Srinagar and the surrounding. September flood in the Kashmir Valley has proved for the need for strict mitigation measures. However, it is still highly susceptible to flooding due to very high groundwater level, heavy siltation in water bodies and lack of action after the 1914 autumn severe flood. Therefore, the issue of future floods cannot be ruled out totally in this zone. Here you can see my one student. I supervise a MPhil thesis on this topic, and you can see hydrological characteristics of the river was very, very important. River rises from a spring in Verinag at the bottom of the high escarped mountain to Pir Panjal zone, flow to the Srinagar city, then leaves the city, join the Ular lake. All along its course, the river is characterized by two main features: sluggish flow and highly tortuous course, which is outcome of both topographical and hydrologic factors. Safe carrying capacity of Jhelum from Sangam to Ular lake ranges 40,000 to 50,000 cubic, and through the Srinagar city only about 50,000 cubic. So you can understand that what type of the mechanism and hydrological characteristics we had at the Srinagar, and so that is why. Here you can see the total rainfall, how starting from 85 to 1999 to 2014 you can see, and rainfall in 2014 was highest one 41.1 millimeter, 893 millimeter, and if you will see the discharge to rainfall ratio 41, so very unbalanced. Average annual rainfall you can see has been the less and almost uniform, but what is the most important, that we received the total rainfall in particular few days, that was the very important. Here you can see rainfall and the average discharge 85 to 84, and so what happened in 2014 you can see shows a direct relationship between the two, showing the positive correlation. discharge of rainfall ratio from 85 to 2004 shows more or less an increasing trend over a period of 30 years. And so, here also you can say discharge to rainfall ratio how increasing. So, we try to collect the data, different type of data, literacy, working population and variety of other factors, and here the land use change was also seen, and you can see the vulnerability mapping was done, and this is the very important high vulnerable area in smaller places, but the moderately vulnerable large part but northern part, because it is more forested and upper reaches, it is a least vulnerable area. Here you can see impact of the Srinagar, loss of life, 75,000 people were evacuated. That was a great evacuation work done by Indian Army. Streets of Srinagar were flooded with carcasses of animals, which led to a strange and resulted a spread of diseases. Here you can see loss of infrastructure. Most houses were damaged. About 16,000 kilometers of road were damaged. So you can see the few important examples: people clearing the debris flow and damage to the road. School was submerged. Hospital were damaged. Totally, we had a big impact on the economy, and you see, according to the SOCHOM, and September floods incurred in immediate loss of about rupees 5,400 to 5,700 crores, with heavy damages to trade, hotels, horticulture and handicrafts. I would like to quote also the SOCHOM, and they particularly calculated about the agriculture and allied activity and contributed about 20% loss in the GDP due to this. Shop got ruined, tourism was very important. So, what we can do, mitigation is very, very important, flood early warning system, interdisciplinary cooperation, strengthening the embankment along the river, dredging and destabilizing activity, stopping illegal construction and encroachment, training to the common people. State government should take a very immediate and ready, particularly the disaster response force, apart from the national disaster response force. Long-term measures like institutionalizing the state disaster management authority. I know we have on the pattern of the national disaster management NDMA, the state should strengthen, and they should also have allocate some forces, particularly for relief purpose. Proper capacity building, particularly the educating the people and the policy makers. Then we have to check also the developmental activity, for controlling the tourism. Few important point I would like to mention, particularly the spatial limitation, activity limitation. We have to diffuse the different type of activity, a stay of the tourists from the different areas, so that we should not have concentration of, we have controlled tourism, particularly the vehicles one can control. Sustainable mountain tourism, how can mountain tourism prove a positive way towards sustainable development? Remigration of people back to their villages, employment of women, facilitating their empowerment, a market for traditional handicraft, and so that more attracting the tourist, and so that the people gain livelihood. We have to improve substantial increase of livelihood from the traditional handicraft, reducing the pressure on the agriculture, aware that their income stream comes from protecting their cultural and natural environment. Sharing the knowledge is very, very important. Growth of opportunity is very, for creating the awareness is very, very important. Finally, I would like to say the disaster risk reduction is key to mountain tourism and sustainability, and it can restrict the pressure coming from through the climate change. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us this session on Himalayan disaster. Dear friends, we are going to meet again very soon and would be discussing more. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, sir. Thank you.